Hey guys, HuShang here. Welcome to another Starcraft 2 lesson. Today we're going to be looking at a build in the PvZ matchup that is not Glaive the Depths. I know, woo! Not Glaive the Depths build? I'm in. So this is a build that it used to be quite popular in this matchup, and nowadays it's not played too much. But this build is still really strong, and in fact, we have seen this build kind of come back in the meta. Stats just used this build in GSL last night, and Neeb also used this build against Serral in the War Chest Team League. So it's maybe coming back into the meta. I'm going to show you guys the classic variation, and then what we're going to do is look at maybe a more nuanced meta version that's going to make it look a lot more like Adepts. So I'm going to show you guys both. First we'll do the classic variation. You should probably do the classic variation if you're, you know, not GM or really high masters at the very least, because this build is going to be a lot safer. Yeah, so let's go through this build in super hyper detail. I'm going to make a, what is this? Like a document so you guys can follow along. I'll put that in the description, probably as a comment as well, so you guys can download that and follow along as I play. Okay, so far I've done a 14 pylon, 16 gate, and a 17 gas. So pretty normal stuff so far. Here I'm going to pause it because we're going to make a slight variation compared to a lot of other builds. So you might notice here that I'm on 15 out of 16 rather than 16 out of 16. And the reason I'm doing this is because we want to get a little more gas for these Stargate openings. So once this gas finishes, just grab one extra guy from the middle line, put him onto the gas, and then change your rally point towards the gas. So we'll fill this up eventually, but we're just going to delay it. Let me put this build on normal speed. Sometimes I have a tendency to go through these builds super hyper quick, and I want to make sure, you know, even if you're like gold, platinum, or lower than that even, you can follow along. Okay, so we have our Nexus on 20 as well. And then we got our Cyber Core on 20. So same time, we're cutting probes here slightly. And then we're going to be grabbing a 21 gas. So that means you make one probe in between the Cyber Core and the gas. And then you're going to make a pylon on 22. So again, there's one probe in between this. And this is a very important building. We are putting this guy back on the minerals, by the way, so we're going back up to 16. And this is a very important pylon because you want to hide your tech. So if you put this pylon, you know, here, and you put your Stargate there, then it's very easy for the zerg, maybe not on this map actually, but on most maps to see your Stargate and get back to that tower. But yeah, so you want to hide this pylon somewhere. So usually I put it here as the most standard place, and this is pretty good because it's far away from the first overlord. And it's also giving you a little bit of building space. So this pylon is pretty nice overall. You could also just put it like way back here, which makes it almost impossible for Zerg to see it. But this is a pretty standard one. Okay, after that pylon, our Cyber is going to be finishing up. The first unit you want to make is an Adept. Although we are going to go Stalker first with the meta version. But with this version, we're going to go Adept first and chrono it. And we're not going to get Warp Gate. So you might think, well, I need Warp Gate. I always get Warp Gate. That's true, but with this build, we can actually get the Stargate quite a bit faster with delaying that Warp Gate. And since we're going to be going Oracle first, it's actually pretty fine. Like, you're going to have a lot of defense. This Warp Gate's a lot faster than it used to be. So it's not very risky to do this. The only danger, I guess you could say, is that you're gonna forget warp gates. So make sure you don't do that. So get your Stargate, and then right before you get the second Adept, you're gonna get the warp gate. So this is where you don't forget it. You research it right here, and then you get a second Adept. Maybe this is gonna be a big point where you guys forget. So make sure that when you do make your second Adept, you double check that you made warp gate. And then it should be good. Okay, you can also chrono this second Adept. I'm not going to chrono this in this game, I believe, but you can chrono this second Adept, and you can go for a bit of like 2 Adept pressure, just make sure that if you go for that pressure, you don't commit with those adepts. Because if you do commit with those adepts, maybe it's a little more advanced and it's going to be harder to take your third. So I'd recommend you don't do that. You kind of need to know a lot of nuances to be able to get away with that, like when they get their speed and stuff. So if you do chrono it, just like poke their natural and then shade out, and that's enough to force some lings, or just don't go for the pressure is also fine. Oh, I did actually chrono the adept. Okay, so behind this, we're making lots of workers. You don't want to skip any workers, and you want to just be pumping these out constantly. And we're not going to chrono them because we're going to spend some chronos on the Stargate, but you are going to make a lot of workers here. Also worth noting, I know I get this question a lot with students, so I'm going to mention it here, is you don't need this gate yet. So I see a lot of people sub or diamond and below getting the second gate really fast. You really don't need that gate. And the reason you don't need that gate is because Zerg speed doesn't finish until 3:30. So there's no reason to get that, unless they're cheesing, obviously. But as long as they're playing a normal build, you don't need that. Okay, next up, we're going to get a third adept. And you're going to need this third adept because we want one adept in the wall, and we want 2 adepts to take our third base in a little bit. Also, if you are moving on with 2 adepts, you're going to need one to protect your ramp. So 3 adepts, and then it's still very tempting to get this gate. Don't get the gate because you need a pylon, and you need to afford an oracle. So we're going to put the pylon down. I'm going to put it at the edge of my base. The reason for this is this build is kind of susceptible to Nidus worms. And so you want to have some vision over here so you can see stuff like that. Also, it's going to help you deny scouting later if you can see an overlord coming in. So put the pylon on the edge. We're also going to put one over here later on, but we'll get to that in a second. Okay, Stargate finishes up. We're going to start up an oracle, and you're going to chrono boost this oracle. Now, normally when you do oracle builds, you're trying to go for kills, and you can do that with this, but I would recommend you don't if you're not GM. And the reason I would recommend that you don't is because this is going to be a critical piece in holding our third base in a little bit. So this is more of like a scouting oracle. It's more of a tool we're going to use later to help us defend against Ling Rush. And so make this, scout with it. Probably don't go for workers though, unless you're already quite a strong player, in which case I don't know why you're watching my my build order guides. So oracle, then we're gonna go Phoenix, and finally we're gonna finish this wall. And this is a pretty tight build, so you can see here that it's already 3:30. So you want to get this down right at 3:30 when speed finishes. Honestly, if you want to get it a little earlier and just I don't know, delay your oracle slightly, that might be okay, but this is totally fine if you're confident. Get this gate here, and now that we're fully walled off, we have our oracle. We're gonna make 1 Phoenix, and you might think this is showing our hand. You know, we're making 1 Phoenix, so we're doing a Phoenix build, so they're gonna know. But there are actually quite a few builds that go oracle Phoenix, and so it's not really clear to them that you're going, you know, double Stargate mass Phoenix. And so this is actually totally fine to make and not show your hand. And the other reason we need to make this is because we need to clear the overlords. We don't want the Zerg to see that we're going for this double Stargate. And so if they've went for their second overlord here, or they're trying to float their first one through, you're going to need to clear that overlord before you throw down your second Stargate. So that's how you want to think about when to get this second Stargate, is you've already cleared all the vision and you know that they can't see it, so then you throw it down. I'm going to get it right when I have the money, but that's not, and that's going to be fine if they're not in here, but if they are in here, that's not when you would want to put it down. Okay, so Oracle's going across, it's scouting, Phoenix is on the way. Now we're going to grab our gases. These are about, what is this, 345? You could maybe get them at like 330 if you're really sharp. And yeah, start up these gases. We're going to need a lot of gas for this build. We're not quite going to grab our third yet. this can be a tell that we're doing some sort of tech heavy play. So sometimes what I'll do is use these 2 adepts to just clear out vision over here and kill the links. And then it's a bit more ambiguous what I'm doing. Let's see. Oh, one more thing. You can go for +1 if you want, but there's some downsides. Like they can see that, so they can know you're going for +1, and it does cost a bit more to do this type of attack. So you're a bit more committed, but you can go for the +1 if you want after the second Stargate, and that actually makes them quite a bit better against queens and against hydras. So if you want to do that, it's probably pretty good if you're below masters to do that. It's just a different style you can go for. So 2 more gases. Let's get the second Stargate. Again, I wouldn't get it this quick if there was an Overlord here. I would kill the Overlord first, and then I would get the Stargate. Or I would maybe hide the Stargate over here so they can't see it, and then do it that way. But they can't see your second Stargate. It's very important. Okay. Next up, we're going to fill the gases, and we're going to make 1 more pylon. I'm not sure. I'm just memorizing the relative area of my supply, but if you want, you can use some vague rule, like if you're within 10, grab 1 pylon or something like that. Actually, making 2 pylons here. And the way I'm doing it, to explain how GMs do it, is I'm just looking at my money, and I know that I want to make a lot of phoenixes, and I know that I want to eventually take a 3rd, but there's no huge rush on that. So I'm just checking my money and seeing that, oh, I have a lot of minerals. Okay, I'll grab some pylons. That's basically the thought process. Okay, so let's go take that. I'm going to finish saturating this base, and then I'm going to pause for a little bit. And the reason I'm pausing is just because I want to get my own 3rd started before Zerg has a lot of larvae to make lings. 1 second, I'm just going to drink some water, so my voice doesn't die on you guys. Okay, so we grab this 3rd base. You can delay this a little bit and make some more phoenix, but we grab this 3rd base, and we have 2 phoenix now. We're going to start up 3 and 4, and I'm going to chrono boost these. You don't have to chrono boost these, but we're going to get our timing a little bit quicker this way. And then after setting up the 3rd and a pylon, I'm going to resume probe production. Okay, before we talk about the next couple of steps, I just want to point out that I'm making this pylon here at the 3rd base so that these adepts are, you know, reducing the surface area for lings if they were to attack them. So it's very important that you do something like this. It doesn't have to be here. You can actually, and maybe it's a little better, is if you put the pylons here and here, and then put the adepts inside. And that way they're even more protected than they are right now. So I'm not sure why I did this in the replay. This is actually a little bit inferior to the first option, the pylons here option. So maybe do that. But that's very important. Okay, so we have 2 phoenix. We're making 3 and 4. Our oracle is defending this from lings, very important. And the next thing you want to do, I see a lot of people like getting their robo here, like what if there's roaches, you know, but you want to finish making all the phoenix first and then transition. And if there's roaches, you can just pick them up or whatever, but you want to finish your specific idea and then transition, whatever build you're doing. You don't want to be doing some phoenix, some transition at the same time, because then your phoenix are late and then your transition is too early and you have no money. So you want to be efficient with your builds, and that's why we're going to make all 8 phoenix and then transition. So there's 4, 5, and 6 on the way. We're going to make 2 more, and then we're going to go push, and then while we're pushing, we're going to transition. Okay, one more important thing, you have to get a shield battery here, and the reason you have to get a shield battery is because a lot of our army is just units that can attack ground very easily, at least. So you really need a lot of focus on defending this base in case you do like a mass ling flood. That's actually one of the huge weaknesses of this build. So you want to make sure that you have this pylon set up, and you want to make sure you have this shield battery set up. And if you do both those things, you shouldn't have any problems. Like it's not It's not like it auto loses against the Ling Floods, but you just have to be cautious and you have to take these precautions. Okay, 6 Phoenix, 2 more on the way. We're gonna move out with 6. You can move out with 8 if you want, but I like to go with 6. And then from here you can transition into whatever build you want. There's a lot of different variations actually. 1 Robo, 2 Robo, go Forge Twilight first. There's a bunch of options. So we'll stop here. This is the double Stargate opening. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Maybe we'll go over the transition if there's some desire for that build. Maybe let me know in the comments if you want to see that. And yeah, just move out with these Phoenix, go harass quite a bit, see what you can get done, and then transition into a macro game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. But wait, there's more. I actually forgot I was going to show you guys the meta version, so let's do that now. I'm gonna play it live, so there's gonna be a ton of clicking. But if you're like, if you don't like the clicking, you're probably, you know, diamond and below anyways. You shouldn't be watching this. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna go for a Stalker and Warp Gate, right? And so now this is gonna make it look a lot like the Adept build. We can go Adept second. It's gonna make it look like a lot of cheeses, like Robo first, Twilight first. It's not gonna look like Stargate first. And so this is really important if we want to sell the idea that we're not going double Stargate Phoenix. And then we're gonna throw down a Stargate anyways. And so now the opponent's you know, not gonna be able to scout us. We're gonna use this Stalker to deny vision over here. And they can't see what we're doing, so they're gonna have to respect the fact that we could basically be doing anything. And so they're gonna have to make some roaches, which is gonna be sweet for us because those roaches are gonna be totally useless. So we can get a second Stargate here. And we're gonna deny this scout. Now they could go for Overlord speed, of course, but that's a pretty committed upgrade. And so we're gonna be happy if they do that as well. And let's start our Phoenix. Now another benefit of this build is that we're gonna get Phoenix way faster than if we were doing it the other way because we didn't make an Oracle. We don't need to make an Oracle at all because we're just not going to show these Phoenix. We're not going to clear Overlords with them. We are not going to even move out of our base until we have like 8. Okay, so also we're going to have an odd number, which is going to be a little bit different, but yeah. So we're just going to make Phoenix like this, and then once you have, you know, maybe 7, I guess you could go out a little earlier. Once you have 7, you can move out with these Phoenix and totally blindside your opponent. Now there's one more little thing we want to add actually. Oops, I meant to make a second Adept. What we're gonna do is go 2 Adept and then warp in 2 more Adept at about 4. Let me go back actually. It's difficult playing and talking. Okay, let's go back. Let's go to here. And let me show you how we're going to sell this even further. So with the Adept build, you normally want to go 4 Adept. So we're going to make a second Adept here. And then we're going to warp in 2 more Adepts. Now if they can see your gas, I suppose they can tell you're not doing the Adept build. So you'll want to hide that from them. But then what we're going to do is warp in 2 more Adepts. And so we're going to have a total of 4 Adepts, which is exactly what the Adept build has. So right here, warping in 2. Let's move our Stalker back. And then you're going to move out with these. So you're going to shade across and a move over here. And so this is going to look exactly like the Adept build. Like, they're not going to see your Warp Prism, but they're going to think, oh, this is the Adept build. And so what they're going to do is make roaches here. And so while they're making roaches and not getting their lair, we're going to have these Phoenix pooling up. And so they're not going to have fast access to Hydras or Corruptors, and they're obviously not going to be making as many queens, and so we're gonna have a really sick timing with these 6 to 8 Phoenix, or I guess 5 to 7 Phoenix, where we can just abuse the fact that they're spending all their money on an attack that is not coming. So hopefully we'll see some of the pros use this build. I think it's a pretty slick trick to make it look like the depth build. So hopefully you guys have some success with this. I know I told you guys to like and subscribe already, but come on, this tip is pretty good. So I think this definitely deserves some likes. Let's try to get like 100 likes on this video or something. That would be pretty awesome. But yeah, I guess I already said goodbye before, but goodbye again, and I will see you in the next one.